Welcome to double-digit multiplication. This is what we're going to learn how to do today. We're going to learn how to figure out 37 times 23 using double-digit multiplication using this method right here that is shown right here. So if we look right here, we've got 37 times 23, and what we do is we start with that ones place there. So we break apart this 23 into its two parts, into 20 and 3, and we start with that 3. And what we did is we figured out that product of 37 times 3. And that's where it is that we have written right here on that first line. That's the product of 37 times 3. Now on the next line, we write the product for our next part of the number that we had broken that down into, where we had this 2. And this 2, though, is worth 20. And that's why we have figured out 37 times 20. Now, if you had watched the multiplication with larger numbers video already, you would have noticed, and you'd know that, hey, 37 times 20, hey, this is 37 times 2 tens, and that's why we had to place that 0. And again, at this point, I'll tell you, that's the magic 0. And then we had to figure out the product of 37 times 2. Now, the last step there is that we put those two things together, so we get our answer. And so our answer for 37 times 23 is written right there on the bottom. So right here, we get the product of 37 times that 3, one's placed there. And then we get the product of the 37 times the 20. Remember to place that 0, because that was worth 20, and then we add them together to get our answer there. Let's try a problem. We have this problem right here. It's 53 times 24. Now what we'll do is we'll start, and we'll take a look here. I'm going to write this here. 53 times 24, we'll start with our ones place here, and we'll start with that 4, and we'll go step by step. We'll go 4 times 3 to begin with. 4 times 3 is 12. 2, regroup a 1. 4 times 5, which is 20. Right, plus 1, which is 21. We'll be really careful to line up our digits. Now our next step within this process is we're going to go ahead and cross out that regroup so we don't accidentally use it. So the answer to 53 times 4 is 212. But what we have to do is we still have to work with the other number here, this 2 here. And that 2 was worth 20. And that's why we have to place our magic 0. When we place our magic 0 there, then we can go ahead and go with those next steps, because all we're doing is we're figuring out the answer for 53 times 2, because we already made it worth 20 by placing the 0 there. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. And then our final step to figure out the answer for 53 times 24 is to do what with those two numbers? Right, we'll add them. And if I add carefully, you'll notice my digits are nicely lined up. I get 1,272. So again, this right here is the answer for 53 times what? Right, that 4 there. This was the answer to 53 times what? Right, that 2 there, which was worth 20. And our answer is on the bottom right here. Let me show you another way to look at this and see if you remember what it is that we've been learning so far. All right, this might look interesting to you. This right here is the answer to what? 863 times what? Right, we started off with that 5 there. This right here is the answer to what? 863 times what? Right, 40. And then we would always remember, because that 4 is worth 40, or 4 tens, we always remember to put that 0 there, and then we can just figure out the answer for 863 times 4. Finally, after we add them together, we get the answer for 863 times 45. All right, point at the squiggly line where it would be 378 times 29. Right, there's that one there. Point at the squiggly line where it would be 378 times 9. This one right here. Point at that squiggly line where it would be 378 times 9. I just said that. Point at the line that would be 378 times 29. That's our answer. And then so that other line is what? What is that other line? 378 times 20. For those that need to see it, I'll go ahead and write those in. And I've written those in there. And remember, when we're working with this right here, since we're dealing with two tens, we better place that magic 0. Let's put the numbers back on in. 365 times 24. We're going to go ahead and start with that 4 there. 4 times 5 is 20. 0. Regroup a 2. 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 2 is 26. 6. Regroup a 2. 4 times 3, which is 12. Plus 2, which is 14. And again, so it's step by step by step there. Most students will be able to get this answer right here. It's the second part a lot of times that people have some difficulty with. One of those most common errors is to not place that magic 0. And in this case, we do have to place a magic 0 because that 2 is worth 2 tens. At that point, we're going to go ahead and multiply. And again, it's step by step by step. You'll remember another common mistake is to forget to cross out the regroups because we did that answer already. We did 365 times 4 equaling 1,460. Now we're figuring out that product, 365 times 20. And again, that's why I had to place that magic 0 there. 2 times 5 is 10. 0. Regroup the 1. 2 times 6 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. 3. Regroup the 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. So my product of 365 times 20 is 7,300. And then what do I do with those two numbers? Right, I add them. And I'm going to choose a different color here. And I add them very carefully. There. And then so 8,760 is my answer there. 365 times 24 is 8,760. Here are two problems for you to set up and try. Please hit pause. Don't forget that magic 0. If you did already, you're going to have to do a little erasing, or you can go ahead and just start right on over. Did you complete that first step correctly for 372 times 6? Did you remember to place that magic 0 because you were dealing with that 4, which was worth 40? Did you get that second number correct there? If not, go back and check your work. And then you would just add them. So our product of 372 times 46 is 17,112. Going to work on that next one. What's our next step right now? Right, cross out that regroup so that we're dealing with that 2, which is worth 20. We better place that 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 7 is 14. 4. Regroup the 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. And then we would add those two together. So our product there is 8,904 for that second problem. 371 times 24 is 8,904. One last problem to show you, and then you're on your way. 384 times 26. Again, we're going to deal with that 6 first, which is worth just 6 ones, and we'll figure out that product at 384 times 6. And again, a lot of students know how to do this, so I'm going to skip ahead. I moved ahead a little bit. We have to remember to cross out our regroups. Now, this is where a lot of students do make that common mistake, so don't be one of those students. When we're working with this 2 now, this 2 is worth 20. It's worth 2 tens. That's why we have to place a 0 here. That's our magic 0. And then we just have to work with this here, 384 times this 2. Again, we go step by step. I'm going to draw my little arrows there just to remind you. 2 times 4 first, which is 8. 2 times 8, which is 16. 6, regroup the 1. And 2 times 3, which is 6, plus 1, which is 7. And what do I do with those two numbers? Right, I add them. Now, look at all this work that we've gone through at this point. Just to figure out the product of 384 times 26. It would be a real shame if your numbers were not nicely lined up, or if you, when you were adding them, if you added them incorrectly. So really take your time on this last step. Make sure to do those steps correctly. So we have 384 times 26 equaling 9,984. That's double-digit multiplication for you.